This episode of the Managing Madrid podcast is brought to you by Hilton New York Times Square Hotel, where you should be booking your stay when you travel to New York for Real Madrid's preseason game versus Barcelona this summer. If you're ever in New York, you need to book your stay at New York Times Square Hotel, which soars above Times Square, offering panoramic views from their spacious rooms and restaurant. The hotel is within blocks of iconic New York sites such as the Empire State Building, Madison Square Garden, Bryant Park, and Grand Central Station. Many of Broadway's theaters are within a mile, and Rockefeller Center is a 15-minute walk from the door. Listeners, if you're traveling to New York for the game, or hey, you're just in New York, you just want to be part of the action, book your stay at Hilton New York Times Square Hotel. You're right in the heart of the action. Everything's at your fingertips. It's the place to stay. Please book your stay at Hilton New York Times Square Hotel. And on that note, New York podcast details coming up very soon. We're trying to finalize that. And if you were at our last New York in-person podcast, you'll be happy to know that I think we got a better venue coming up. And if you were there, you know what I'm talking about. So very much looking forward to seeing the New York Madridistas once again and meeting more people. So stay tuned for details on that. Coming up is a clip taken from last week's Mailbag for members, which goes up once per week exclusively on patreon.com/Managing Madrid. If you want access to the weekly Mailbag where Lucas Navarrete and we go through and answer questions from members sent in, you need to go to patreon.com/Managing Madrid. Or if you're on YouTube, hit join underneath this YouTube video that you're watching, or hit the memberships tab and get inside. It's the same content. And the full episode is only for members. We talked about a bunch of things. I mean, it's a very long episode, but in the full episode, Lucas and I actually reflected on his take from earlier this season about Kepa and Lunin. If you know, you know. We reflected on that. We talked about why Real Madrid's European Champions League DNA can never be replicated, ever, and why that's scientifically the case. We also talked about the post-Toni Kroos world. Who is the perfect Kroos replacement? Does it exist? Who is it? How can we do that? So that and a ton more for members. And this clip is much shorter, but I hope you enjoy it anyway. And if you like more, please become a member. We'll see you on the inside. All right, let's get to it. Enjoy. Ranta says, how come Modric is so universally respected and loved by all fans and pundits? Have you ever seen any player before get as much appreciation as Modric does? What's the difference between him and Kroos? For me, at least, why I think I love Modric slightly more is because of that defensive commitment that Modric always has had, but that Kroos has been showing these the last few seasons. I wish at least the Bernabeu would show the same love for Kroos as they do for Modric. It feels like Kroos is highly underappreciated. For example, you hear the fans chant Joselu, but I don't think I've ever heard chants for Kroos. I must be wrong on that last part, but do you agree that Kroos should get more love?
Many questions here. I agree on the general point, explaining or suggesting that Kroos is underappreciated inside Madrid's fan base. We even remember, Kiyan, we talked about this when we first met here in Valencia in that vegan restaurant. We talked about this, and me actually advocating and saying that Kroos isn't that far away or that far off in the Modric comparison. I truly believe that they are pretty close when it comes to their contributions to the team and to the club, and even to their skill set. Not to their skill set because they're different players, but to their quality as players, if you will.
Yeah.
So I agree with the point here. Why Modric is more appreciated, or why does he have more charisma? We will never know, but it's just a fact. People like to cheer or support Modric more than they like to support Kroos. Modric's style of play is more flashy. It's easy to put or to create a highlight reel of Modric playing rather than Kroos. But yeah, I agree with the point being that Kroos is underappreciated in Real Madrid. I agree there.
Are we sure he's underappreciated in Real Madrid? I understand that he is definitely underappreciated.
In the fan base, he is. I definitely think so. Yeah.
You still see there's enough people that I've seen who still like don't really get what he does.
Hmm.
Whereas I think everyone kind of understands that Modric is great.
Look, remember this old clip from El Chiringuito from years ago? All these Madrid pundits voting that Kroos had to leave the club after one of
No,
these big. Yeah, yeah. You haven't seen it? Yeah,
I don't want to see it.
after one of these terrible Real Madrid seasons, everyone was kind of advocating or suggesting that Real Madrid
Probably
will.
2019 was
I
probably
think
the
it was before that one. But yeah, it's hard to believe it was after one of those Champions League seasons, right? So yeah, it had to be 2019, I guess. And people were kind of panicking, and rightfully so, maybe, that Real Madrid should do a rebuild and all that. And again, unanimously, every single Real Madrid pundit on El Chiringuito said and voted for Kroos and Real Madrid to part ways. Really, like Real Madrid should sell Kroos. That was like the question, and everyone unanimously agreed on this. You would never see that with Modric. Never, never. No matter the team's failure. I mean, with Modric at his peak. With Modric right now, maybe. But with Modric like
Modric right now is unbelievable.
27, 28-year-old Modric, which was the case for Kroos when this happened, you will never see that in Real Madrid's fan base. And again, unanimously, like the consensus among Real Madrid's fan base and pundits here in the Spanish press was that Real Madrid had to part ways with him. So yeah, you will never see that with Modric. So that's why I believe ultimately that Kroos is underappreciated. Yeah.
Yeah, as you know, I stopped checking Twitter notifications a while ago. And the the straw that really broke the camel's back for me with checking Twitter notifications was I had tweeted about Kroos at some point, and just that it was basically his progressive passing numbers, which are like
Mhm.
leading the entire continent, and just making like this sarcastic note that like, oh,
Yeah.
sideways passer, etc. Like, because that's what idiots say about him. And one guy in the replies said, I don't care what the numbers say, he's a sideways passer, something like that. And I replied to him, and I don't know what I said. And then he literally drew me a diagram. He drew a diagram and posted in the reply. The diagram was a short pass to Ferland Mendy, like this big. Like he put the 11 and he put
Mm-hmm.
an arrow cruise to Ferland Mendy, which would have been
Mm-hmm.
like just in front of him, saying this is his progressive pass. And I was like, I'm done. I'm out. I'm out. Elon, have fun with this app. I'm gonna post and that's it. I'm not checking. This is insane. So I in that sense, yes, there are people who don't really get what he does still. Like they don't get it.
Jersey sales, even Kiyan. I'm sure
Yeah.
you go to Real Madrid store and Kroos has never reached top 5 in jersey sales for Real Madrid.
Yeah. Yeah, I know he's like his PR machine is probably not as strong as Modric. But like
Mm-hmm.
Modric is like he deserves everything he gets. Like
Oh
he
yeah, yeah, yeah,
deserves
yeah.
all the
This is
praise.
no. Yeah.
It's not about like Modric shouldn't get that love, but I do think like even Modric does have a special love, I think also universally, not just the Real
Yep.
Madrid fan base. Like
Yep.
everyone just swoons about him,
Yep.
except for Kool-Aid's. But everyone generally is understands his greatness. And I
Yep.
think so what's funny is that like we named our oldest son after Luka Modric. His name is Luka. And after the 2018 World Cup, there was a Luka boom. Like so many people just started to have sons named Luka because of him. And like that's the kind of influence that he had. So sometimes you can't really explain these things and like, the I guess what people gravitate towards and what people like about certain players. I don't know what it is about Modric. I think part of it is also the grace and elegance that he plays with. That Kroos, in my opinion, actually has. Like I love it watching Kroos play, but I do think Modric has this, as you said earlier, his highlight reels are just different, right?
Yeah.
The way he
He has more
maneuvers, the way he
magic to
dribbles
him.
out of
Yeah.
pressure, his outside of the boot passes,
Yeah.
all that stuff. You can kind of understand why. But yeah,
It's like NBA analogy again. It's like Kyrie Irving against Chris Paul, maybe. both. Well, Kyrie Irving is actually a lesser player than Chris Paul in terms of legacy, but you know what I'm saying in terms of playing style, right?
Yeah.
Kyrie Irving is really easy to appreciate and to love the way he plays, whereas Chris Paul needs maybe a little bit of a trained eye to appreciate a little bit more. I don't know.
I think Kawhi kind of falls into this category a little bit.
Yeah. Good
Because like he just doesn't talk.
one. Yeah.
He doesn't have like the cult following like somebody like who's more marketable would, right? Uh and I think Kawhi is a good example. Yeah, both like robotic in what they do as well.
Yeah.